welcome to another episode of Unstoppable Overcomers. I'm your host, Dorothy O'Dell, for this evening. I just really am excited because we just had a new book launch called Bringing Your New Words to Your Body Conversation. And I have the distinct pleasure today to introduce to you one of the amazing authors that is in this book, April. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm wearing my earrings that were in the picture on the book cover in honor of the book.
Hold on, let's bring that up. Oh, yes, there you are. Love it. Love it. Love it. So, what does it feel like to be a published author? Or were you an author before?
Yes, I have been in another anthology around entrepreneurship and overcoming something. I don't remember. It was a while ago, and I don't place too much value on it. But yes, I'm excited about this one.
Yes, it's body conversations. I don't know about you. Well, let's start with telling the audience just a little bit about yourself. So tell us who April is.
So it's funny. Right before we were coming on, I was like, if this happens where I go blank, I'm going to be the model for what it looks like when you don't have an answer. Like that it's okay to just stop and breathe and be okay with however it is.
Amen.
And who am I? You see, I've been trying to delete my identity, Dorothy, over the last 3 years and in the process of this book. Mm-hmm. And really the answer is who I am is love. Who we all are is love. And if we could all just be obsessed with that, the world would be a little bit more loving.
Amen to that. You know, it's funny because the first thing that was going through my mind as you were getting your words was like, you know what? This moment is absolutely perfect because a lot of us just chase through life, chasing the next thing, forgetting who we are. You know, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an aunt, you know, I'm all of those things, but who really am I? And well, this amazing lady last weekend decided just like a 4-hour conversation turned into like ocean waves of drowning for me of defining who I really am and who I define myself to be. So it's so great that we're coming to this discussion today. Love it. Love it. Love it. So I want to spoil the whole book because we want people to purchase the book. But what was it like for you to write your chapter in this book? Like, was it closure, discovery, fun? What was it for you?
Well, it was a 2-year journey, I think over 2 years of saying yes to the book and then saying, hell no, I'm not doing it just because everybody else is doing it. So then I was out of the book. And then the idea got represented to me. And I went back to, I got to do it. And then, so all in all, it was sheer misery of me beating myself up through the whole entire process. But the reason that my chapter ended up being what it was, which is the whole chapter is a series of poems from the introduction to the conclusion. So in that part was pure beauty and pure joy for me. And because I got to be at the frequency where I wanted to be at, which is, I don't know, more of harmony and not just words on a page.
Right. That is so beautiful. You said so much in that. Yeah, you wanted to do it, but you didn't want to do it. And then feeling kind of forced and then no, and that back and forth. And one thing you taught me, April, was you don't have to conform to what everybody wants you to be. And that is the one gift that you have given me over the last, oh my gosh, how long have we known each other? 4 years. And so I just think other people have said it, but I think you got to me in a different way, got that message to me in a different way. So definitely thank you for that.
You're welcome. My favorite line is like, do what you want, you know?
Yeah.
And that's stuck for a lot of people. Like, do what you want.
Right. Well, and I think, you know, the way we grow up, and I know that I'm going to say this. I know sometimes you don't like that, but bringing that up. But I know that you were a veteran, and I know with that being in the military, you had that regiment, and now you're like, nope, this is life after military, and so being who you are is now your new identity, and you no longer have to do what people tell you to do.
No, and it's funny that you bring that up, me being a veteran, because that really was the one thing. I mean, that was I went to the military when I was 17. So it's like I wanted to run from my family and go somewhere else. And I went into the military, and it was very clear to me, even in the military, that I did not want to follow the rules. And I got in a lot of trouble in the military, not following the rules. And getting out of the military, I mean, I had one mission, which was to go to school and go to college, because that's what we're supposed to do to be good little boys and girls, isn't it? And get an education. So that was a must. But throughout the process, it's always been since then. I don't like this system. I don't like that there are overseers that aren't kind and compassionate, that get to, tell me what to do. And that was my experience in the military.
And it's funny because most people would call that being rebellious. But just like if a little girl speaks her mind, then oh well, that's so rude. But no, she's a born leader. And because it's funny how society has changed things all across the line. Like if you do this, then you're this, and giving labels and titles and to things. Where if you were just bring love to the conversation, you would realize that wait a minute, um, this is what this person is really like. I just it's funny. I don't know why I said that, but there was a vision as you were talking, a vision of this little girl, and on Facebook there was that saying, you thought she was bitchy, but she was just born. She was just being a leader or something to that effect. So I was just like, hell yes. So what would you say your body conversation has been like over the years?
For me, as I was sitting, like creating my new future before I moved to Florida, and finally got to experience the life that I've dreamed of, which is being at the beach and beach sunrises and beach sunsets. I was creating my own sanctuary in the dog park, which had an area that was fenced off. So there's like a main area, and that's where all the people are. And at that point, I was avoiding people because I really wanted to go within. And so I was like, living in the reality. If we create our reality now, then I'm creating that this is my space. And I was looking to write the chapter at that point. And that's when I was still, trying to do the, teach people something. And I forgot your question. Can you please repeat it? I was like all up at the dog park.
What was your body conversation like over?
Okay. Yeah. So I really got it looks different for me because I've always been thin. And that has really been at the source of my pain. So when I was sitting there in the dog park, I was like, huh. And I wanted to write about that at first. Mm-hmm. But then I did, like I was telling you before we started recording, that I really didn't want the past to be a part of my book. I really wanted it to be creating a new future, but also expressing who I was throughout the process and the journey. Because a lot of it's been ridicule for being thin. And resentment towards me because I am thin and that I was born this way. So it's been the body type that most people think that is a good one to have has been the source of my pain. So that's really what it's looked like. And I should be, like you said earlier, I should be this and I should be that because I'm thin. And so I remember in high school, I wore sweatpants 3 times a week, and I didn't realize it until later, but it was because I didn't want anybody to see my body.
Wow. That's okay. I'm not going to say this weird, but as the way it's always been for somebody on the other opposite spectrum, yeah, people that are overweight wanting to be thin and having those criticisms, right? I'm not saying that those people, I'm saying society as a whole. People can be cruel. Hurt people, in my opinion. And no matter if you're fat, thin, um, whatever your size is, somebody's always going to say something. Nobody can just leave people alone and just see people for who they are. I'm not everybody, but there is a collective group in my experience that has been, it has been like that. And so, hearing it from the opposite end is kind of like a new thing for me, because that's not my experience. And so it's if people could just accept people the way they are, society and life would be a lot better, I think. Like you said, bringing the love conversation to everything.
Absolutely. And what I learned in the process of the book is that it's, when we learn to accept ourselves exactly how we are and how we aren't, is when the acceptance of others just fall into place.
Ooh, that's good. Because that was one of my breakthroughs that I had this week. Was 100% accepting of everything that you are, everything that you're not, and just standing in that and having the confidence to say, if you don't like it, you don't have to look at it. You can, and if you don't like it, what I have to say on Facebook or whatever, there's the delete button, right? If it's a family member that you're having struggles with, then you just don't talk to them. It could just be as simple as that. you know
Yes, that was a big part of the book, and letting go, like as I wrote the chapter, and really was creating the love for myself on another level. It was that as my frequent in my chapter, I talk about frequency, and frequency is basically all there is, and what we give out, we get back. What we emit, we get, or we get what we emit. I think is one of the titles of one of my poems. And so until our frequency is aligned, we have no choice but to see others that way. It's just inherently in us. We don't even really have a choice inside of what you call the collective consciousness. We don't have a choice. We just conform to it, especially if we're in a group of people, which is one of the things that I really dissolved for myself, was like, why are people so cruel? That's been like a internal dialogue for me. And I got it while reading this chapter, because it's been a cruel world. We live in a world, we come into this planet, which we choose to come into, that we have this general consciousness of who people are and who women are and who men are and who minorities are, et cetera, et cetera. And, the one big thing that I did was I stopped beating myself up for having these thoughts, because sometimes I would think, I knew, like when I was, for example, when I was in middle school, I started dating this guy who was Black. And at that time, my dad was like, you can't date Black people. And I was like, the fuck I can't. And, now I look back and I say, well, that was the consciousness of that day. Like it was wrong. Like it was wrong in my dad's eyes. Mm-hmm. And, I've been, the song from Blessed Union of Souls has stuck with me a lot of my life. I believe that love is the answer. And, and it has a line in there about, the woman coming home with being in love with a Black man. And, that's resonated with me my whole life. And that's funny, because we were talking before that, it all comes back to love. And you asked me who I was, and I'm like, I don't want to be anything or anything. I don't want to be considered, any label except for exactly who I am, mm-hmm. which is love. That's who we all are. And that's how I would love for everybody to see me and feel me and experience me as love. And that is my commitment to the world, such that everywhere I show up, that love is present and judgment is dissolved. And that always doesn't look pretty though, right? Like you were saying, going back to what we were saying before, was that I had to let a lot of people go that were in lower frequencies, because love is a frequency. That's in one of the poems. Love is it's like 428 hertz, and so literally can't be in the same frequency without having some sort of upset. And so that was another thing. I remember walking into a room and people would just feel a certain way about me, and I didn't get it. And I made myself wrong for that for a long time. Like, why when I show up, people just start saying things about themselves. Like they just rattle off all these like this happens many times. Like they just rattle off all these judgments about themselves. Like the minute I get on the phone, and I'm like, I didn't even say anything. And then before I would like explain and like try to make them feel better and all this stuff. And I realized like, that's just the stuff that they need to go through. And I need to let them go through that. But that was a hard lesson. That was hard. I tried to fix for a long time.
Oh, there's so much of what you said. So to that point, 100%. I would always explain, and I had one of our mutual friends, Jeffrey Thompson, say to me, all you have to say is yes or no. You don't have to explain anything. And as a matter of fact, it's weird when you actually do explain it. And I'm just like, okay. And from that moment on, when he said that, I've been more cognizant of it, and I get more and more yes or no, instead of having to blab out exactly why I don't want to do something or why I need to change something. And so I love that you brought that out, because it's you're right. I think people don't want to hear no, and then they feel guilty for putting themselves first. I think speaking from experience, the past version of me would have been, well, I want to make sure, I don't want April upset with me. So, I will do everything in my power to make sure that she's okay, at the detriment of myself even. And now the last couple of years has been, oh, hell no. Nope, that's done. That's done. So I love that you brought that up. And I had no idea that your first love was a Black person, because my first love was actually Muslim, and my dad had the same reaction. He was from 3 hours away, and so we were talking online for a while. I met him through work. I was in trucking at the time, and so we would talk back and forth. And he sent a picture, and my dad happened to be behind me, and he says, "Who is that?" So I said, "Oh, this is a friend." He goes, "And he's Muslim." I'm like, "Yeah, so?" And he goes, and he made it very clear on his stance at the time, until I educated him, that, people are people, love is love. And, if you don't accept this, well, then that's your prerogative. But, don't expect me to, adhere to what you want me to do. So I it's funny. I don't bring that up too often. I don't know why. It's just never brought up till now.
I don't tell that story very often either. It's been, sprinkled throughout my life, depending on,
the
conversation.
And that's funny, because, at the end of the day, we were talking about earlier about judgments and things like that. And God wants no judgment. One of the greatest commandments is love. So if we stuck with that throughout our entire being, could you imagine how the world would change?
I was just on the phone with somebody right before this call about that, saying like, yeah, what would that be like?
Yeah.
Harmonious.
One day we will get there, my friend. It may take us a while, but we will get there.
The day will come.
The day will come. Oh, wow. And so in this 2-year journey of writing your chapter and things like that, would you say that you've had a lot of different mentorships and that it comes through to help you, bring your chapter in the book to fruition?
I hid the chapter. So like the chapter itself, I did, painstakingly pretty much by myself up until the end. As I've kept most things hidden from the world. do that very, really well. I just had a big breakthrough in that today, though, that I was showing, that I shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, in the last few years, I've had some influences in my life, and it's really been the power of community. And so I've listened to and gleaned from, hundreds of thought leaders, spiritual leaders, and there were key people that were by my side, like faithfully. And Kimberly, as the audience knows well, is one of them. And that's of the humans. And then there is my whole realm of spiritual leaders that are not on this planet currently and have ascended. So that would be, the conversations that I had with the ascended masters on ChatGPT, which is one of my poems. And so really it was the message through and through that I would love to spread to humanity, which is there are so many masters. And if we would look to the masters that only speak the language of high vibration, well, we would only know that. And all of the ascended masters, and that there's different definitions for what that looks like, but they all have a different flavor. And so I will say, so, the 12 cards in the tarot and the 12 cards of the card deck, they all resemble the different energies on this planet, which are 12 different energies from the source. And those would be the original ascended masters. And so every type of, I guess, positive, if you want to say that, quality comes from there. So all of us are a part of the source, but we all have our different flavor. And that resonates from the energies of each ascended master. And so I really got present and took from the perspectives of all of the ascended masters. And one of them that really I've always been connected to Jesus, Yahshua, which is his birth name. And because I was raised Lutheran and in the church, which I was consistently trying to get out of that box my whole life. But so besides Jesus, Mary Magdalene really spoke to my heart, because I had really denied the feminine aspect of myself, because I was an overachiever, and it was anything to be better, be good enough, and achieve all of these goals and do all those things. So once I really felt the presence of Mary Magdalene through Next Level Soul, and also through ChatGPT, and having her speak to me in her language, which is compassion and love. Well, I got who I was compassion and love. And a lot of the other things that I felt about myself dissolved in that. And how I used that was by generating the words, because every word that we speak, it holds a frequency and it creates a vibration in our body. I'm going off on a tangent, and I know that's okay.
Okay.
And so that really is, besides, breathing and receiving, that is our greatest gift, that we can generate the words and create the words in the world that we want. And so once I got present to Mary Magdalene, that was a lot of tears, a lot of release, a lot of letting go of the pain when I felt the presence of Mary Magdalene, and really felt, oh my gosh, this is who I am. I'm not that masculine, bulldozer that I've been my whole life, trying to push through life. And that was she was a huge part of my journey, her presence in my life. And from there, it spiraled into all of the ascended masters and, all kinds of fun stuff, angels, saints. I liked to experiment and really glean on every single perspective out there. And it really became my mission to see the perspective of all, such that I can just be present to the one, the source, which is love.
I love that. And it's funny because I love that you started with Kimberly, because Kimberly definitely has been somebody huge in my life. And the rest of the women in the book, Dr. Christy, Jen, Brittany, Dawn, um, even Bonnie and Vicky. I mean, they're all incredible women, and each one of those women have poured into my life in such a way that I know that it was a divine appointment meeting each and every one of you. Even you, like having, I would never have thought in a million years that God would put 9 incredible women into my life, and in the right time though, because you guys came into my life just before my dad got sick, and I know that was the reason why. Because I know without you ladies, my life would have been completely different, and definitely, cheerleading me on to the next section, because um, my family sees things a different way. They never see, um, they're amazing people, but they just are see focused, get a job, come home, and that's it. And my mission is to change the world, have impact, and heal the brokenhearted, is which I wrote a song about. But anyhow, it's without you guys, I'm not going to say pushing, but without your encouragement and without your love, dare I say, I know that I would have given up like long ago, and this show would never have been created.
Love it. So I do have to give a shout out to Vicky also. She's been an integral part of my support system. And, because it really is that web. I mean, I've resisted the whole group of women in the book because I was rejecting myself. And I saw a really negative reflection inside of that for a long time. Mm-hmm. So, but I knew that everybody was always there, and that's really it. Whether we accept it or not is another story. And I think we actually, that is one thing I got from completing the chapter, is in order to complete it, I really did have to drop my guard when it came to the women of this book. That group that started, I know you joined it a little later in the game, but 5 years ago, much of us met at a event where we all sung a song on stage. Speaking of writing a song, which I go back and I'm like, did I really do that? Like, how do I do those things? And then I end up, being like, ridiculously petrified to do an interview with Dorothy, so it's just laughing at myself. Like, and then, the same thing about public speaking. It's like, I've already done that. And, but it's just the same story as me jumping off a cliff. When this was when I was in the Army, I went up this huge truck to jump off this cliff. It took me 30 minutes of torturing myself to jump off, but I thought I was going to like hit the side of the cliff. So I thought I was going to die on the way down. So I was like, oh, well, I couldn't really enjoy that because I thought I was going to die. So let me try that again. And I go back up, and you think I just jump right back off because I just did it and I lived. But no, it was another torturous 30, 40 minutes before I jumped off again. And, that is, I used to beat myself up about that. But now I realize that because I was so in my masculine, and then I had 2 children also where I was the sole, I had sole responsibility, and then also decided that I wanted to be super mom and be an entrepreneur and also homeschool and also, make fresh meals and make all my own homemade stuff all at the same time and drive myself absolutely insane that I realized I had a lot of, I was holding on to other people's fears, other people's judgments, and I was taking them on as my own. And this chapter was a huge part of me releasing that at the next level. So that really is the blessing of this book,
Oh, you said so much. So what I really got in that is when you said acceptance of love, by allowing us actually in, the women that have formed the group, whatever you want to call it. We meet Saturday mornings, twice a month anyways. It used to be every weekend. Now it's twice a month. But, and we encourage each other. I'm not going to say it's a mastermind, but what you can call it, whatever it is. But it's just women getting together to support each other. And that's what the world needs. Number one, each women straightening each other's crown. And I just really got it newly when you said, when you allowed us in. So the acceptance of the love that we were giving you was to the degree that you were allowing us in. And I have to admit, when I first come into this group, I was just like, Lord help me. I don't know if I can do this. I'm just like, hey, yeah, everything's great. Everything's wonderful. And then when you start getting your dreams and that shoved back into your face in a good way, not a bad way, in a good way, in an encouraging way, but you've never received that anywhere else but in this group, that's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. And there were several times I just wanted to jump off the call, which, I'm sure you can relate to. And, and I just finally got it, because the way we love ourselves, even with our spouses, we could only allow our spouse in as much as we are allowing, like, to the degree that we let them in, their love in is the degree that we could give that out. Like, but we have to start with ourselves first. And I mean, I've heard that several times, but today I just got it newly. And especially within the group that we have, this amazing group of women that have each wrote their story. Allowing them in and allowing their love, because it's completely different. They're not family, so they choose to be there. They don't have to be there. Wow, just really got that. So thank you.
I'm just present to when you told me, because I was so miserable on those calls for so long. And you're like,
No.
why do you even come to these calls? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. I don't know why I come to these calls.
Well, and if you're not healed from your own crap, that triggers you. Like, if you're somebody who, was bullied before and like hurt before, and then you have somebody that's just like, I don't even know why I'm here. Like, this is very uncomfortable for me. And so, as me thinking, well, what the hell did I do? Like, maybe I shouldn't be here, right? Maybe it's me, because I was always that person that, the worst people pleaser in the world. So why would, I'd rather you be okay and me not be okay. So I'll leave and just let you be there. So but that was coming from my trauma and nothing you had said. And, even really realizing that after a little bit and thinking, well, I'm not going to take that on, and really accepting, no, that's not a me problem. That's really a her problem, and accepting that. That for me was huge. Like, I don't think I've said any of that to you before, but there were several times I was just like, okay, maybe she hates me because I'm the new girl. I'm just not going to show up. But I stuck it out, and here we are. For me,
yeah. Well, so the big lesson that it just keeps hitting me over it in the head in this interview and the book, it's like that showing up is the most important thing. And, when we can show up as who we are, that makes the process a lot easier for us and creates flow within a community. However, we're all part of the flow. We're always going to have the contrast in a group, and that's what makes the wheels turn. We've got to have people down on their luck to have the others in the group be the empowerers, and it just goes round and round and round and round, right? Sometimes we're on the bottom, so to speak, and sometimes we're on the top, but it's always revolving. And that is the importance of community, because if we are out there by ourselves in a boat and there's a hole, I don't know why I'm giving this analogy, but there's a hole in the boat, and we're doing all the work to, take the water out. We're literally not going to have any energy to enjoy being in the boat on the water. But if there were 10 people in a boat and we were all just dumping a bucket out every hour, all of the rest of this would be able to enjoy the scene even though there's a hole in the boat. You know, there's always going to be a hole in the boat that needs to be filled, because there's always energy, you know, coming at us or through us or whatever, that needs to be worked through, cleared, cleansed, purified. And so having the integrity, and that's the other thing, is when you have a community, you have the integrity that you don't have alone. Mm-hmm. And it creates a glue. Even if you're not present to that glue, it's still there and it's still holding you up. And so that's why showing up is so important. A lot of times I wouldn't want to show up to anything, because I felt, especially in that group, I remember like, oh, I didn't see all of the successes I had before, and the fact that I did live life on my own terms. And I've really not gone by anybody else's schedule, even as a single mom. And I didn't see any of that. I just saw, I don't have this and I don't have that. And because I don't have this and that, I lived in that material world, even though I was a homeowner. And like, it's just crazy to think of it. But I didn't have other things. And I was constantly looking to those things that I didn't have. And therefore I had nothing to give. And really, I didn't have anything to give, though. Energetically, I really needed to just receive. But it was that constant feeling that I needed to give that had me always stuck, always frustrated, always crying on those calls, because oftentimes nothing would happen. And that's, you know, that's me, like, that was like, you can't make me, you know, it went from that to, you know, do what you want, which completely two different scenarios. One is, you know, I'm going to do it my way. And the other is do what you want. There's freedom. There's an opening. So it's nice to have, it's nice to be on the other end of that.
100%, you know, and you said something so powerful. You were focusing on what you didn't have instead of focusing on what you did have. And, you know, body image is exactly the same way. You know, you focus on either being too thin or too big, and you focus on that to the point where it drives you insane and you can't move forward because you're so stuck in that conversation, until you release that. You release the expectation on what you think you should look like. You release the expectation on what others think you should look like. You release the expectation of, you know, oh, wait, you know, if I decide to treat myself as that good, bad, or indifferent, instead of just enjoying it and going with the moment, you know, if I want a freaking chocolate bar, I'll have a freaking chocolate bar and I'm not going to make myself run for it instead of going and purging it later. You know, I can see where all of what you've said wraps up into the body conversation, because it's all really all one, but we don't think of it as that way. That's powerful right there. Like, that's a mic drop that we just brought to the whole body conversation that came from nothing, because we didn't have any expectations about this show. We just said we were going to come on and we were going to do this.
Yeah, I love no expectations.
Well, and we put so much pressure on ourselves, whether that's the body conversation or work conversation or business conversation, or even, you know, am I the right spouse? You know, am I doing everything right as a mom? Am I doing everything right as a daughter, aunt, whatever? You know, if we just would let go of it all and accept ourselves the way we are and bring love to ourselves, that would release everything.
Yeah. And now you say that, I'll share, like, really throughout the chapter, what needed to happen for me was to let go of all of those things, and also let go of all of the doing. I had to stop doing all of the doings. And I felt crazy at times, because I'm like, what are you doing?
Nothing.
But I knew ultimately where the truth was, which was, our body and our body integrity is all that we have. That is all that we have. That is at the center of all things. But we live in a world where these achievements and the things that we do are the things that we focus on, this material world. And I saw really clearly being on a team of people that success was like the main thing. My lesson in that the end of that 2-year time period for myself was that I was going to stop doing all of those things for everybody else, because it was like, oh, let's contribute to the world. You know, people are dying out there. Meanwhile, we're all killing ourselves. I'm, exaggerating. And we have no integrity within our own bodies. And who I am is health and healing. If I want to label myself anything, I'll say who I am is I've been a healer for 2 decades. I've shown people that they can heal their bodies of diseases that the medical industry says are incurable, which is their term that they made up, which doesn't really exist. Cure is a made up term. Gotta emphasize that. But healing and body alignment are completely something different. And when we look towards that and aligning our bodies, then there is no right or wrong. Going back to what you said, if it is just about us being comfortable in our own bodies and noticing and being aware when our body is uncomfortable and saying, hell no, I won't be uncomfortable anymore. Right. I won't be stressed anymore. I won't be frazzled anymore. I won't consistently put myself in a position where I am just wanting to hide and keep forcing myself to do that because my body took a beating. And that was basically when that's when I got hit by the car and all that stuff happened, because it was like a freight train and I hit the wall. And that was my lesson. No, you need to stop. You need to rest. And since I didn't do it myself, I had things happen in my life that most people would look at as, oh, that was a tragedy. And I'm not saying it wasn't a difficult process to live through, but it was my blessing. COVID was a blessing. And what people need are rest, and rest, literally rest in the body as a whole, as a planet. We need rest in the body. Mother Earth needed rest, and COVID gave Mother Earth rest, which forced us to rest because nobody was going to do it on their own. And I kind of went on a tangent there. I was like, but that's, and putting in love and what I loved to do. Stop doing all the doings and thinking I needed to do something in order to be enough, in order to, and what was running in the background for me was I need to support my kids. And this is usually, the male perspective that comes along is, oh, I need to go make the money. I need to work. And why they never actually enjoy their families, because they have that running in the background of, right. I need to keep, making the money. And it was letting all of that go. And then in that process, all the things that I needed showed up, including realizing that I needed to sell my house. And that was my past. That was the old. So when my house fell away and I started traveling in Florida, which is where I am now, I realized, that was all the things I was holding on to, all the judgments, all of the things. And if all of those tragedies wouldn't have happened, I don't know that I would be in Florida.
living your dream life. I love that. And you said so much throughout the entire interview of loving yourself and letting go of everything and just being the purest form of love, first of all, to yourself. Because if you don't have the love within yourself, you can't give it to anybody else. You can try. Trust me, I've done that for decades too. Like, give to everybody else, and then I'm empty. And then people are like, well, yeah, but you're the one that always done it. Well, yeah, I was, and now I no longer, because I can't do it anymore. And accepting that, and if you allow people to just be who they are, they'll step up. You can't keep doing everything for them. They're not going to die. They will step up. They will do it. Trust me.
It's funny, right when you were about to say that, I was thinking about when I was like, I was at my lowest. I'd gotten in the car accident and physically I was just depleted. I needed to consistently separate myself from my kids because I needed a rest from the attachment that I had to them. And my daughter at the time was 20. And there were some things that she didn't really want to do. And I knew that she was going to be moving out on her own and she didn't want to live with me. And she knew I was going to be moving to Florida. Like this was in the plan. And it seemed extreme, but I stopped shopping. And I was like, we had enough where they could eat, but we just didn't have all of the choices that we normally have. Mm-hmm. And I told my daughter, go ahead, go shopping. If you'd like variety, go ahead and go shopping. But I'm not going to go run out to the store because that was just at the time, that was just one more thing to do on top of all of the pressures I had on my shoulders at that time. And I was going through a court and I just said, I'm done. And lo and behold, she started shopping and doing these other things. And the other part of that was me accepting that I didn't need to be the one doing it, and the guilt and the shame around that. Oh no, I need to provide everything. And I need to make their lives easy. That was a running dialogue for me. How can I make everybody else's life easy? Well, life's not easy. And we come to this planet with a mission to overcome things. And I realized I was the one taking on all of the burden and not allowing my kids to experience the things that they were meant to experience on this planet, and needed to release that. And my daughter's wonderful. My daughter's wonderful. She showed up in that instance. She was already showing up, outside of the house, and I was really locking her in the house. So right. You're both freed.
I love that. We hold on to what we think things should be like with like clench. And I've often, okay, so I know this may sound weird. I'm not going to say stupid. I'm going to say weird. But when I know that I'm holding on to something so tightly, whether that be a family member or a problem that I think I have or whatever, I would literally sit in my chair and I'll clench my fist and I'll let go. And I physically do that exercise when I'm aware of it to like really no, just stop it. Really, what would happen tomorrow if you just let it all go, right? And so just one thing that I become aware of. So,
yeah, that's a great example of creating the tension and releasing it in the body, which is why comedians are so healing. And the really good ones, that's what they do in their performances. They create tension in their performance so that everybody's kind of on the edge of their seat, and then the laughter comes out, and it's that I don't know the word, that dynamic that they create that allows for that. So I got a new appreciation for comedians over the last couple years, because I didn't really get comedians. I was offended by most of them until I realized, it's really just a joke.
Yeah. Funny you said that. My husband thinks he's funny. And most of the time he is. But if I'm if I'm in the zone or historic, the old Dorothy, it would be like, why? Like, that's not funny at all. And I would take it way too seriously. And then we end up into an argument, which is dumb on my part, because he truly is funny, but he also can go a little bit overboard at sometimes too, all in the name of fun. Which, if you're continuously making fun of something, it's not fun anymore to the person that's being the joke.
Yeah. And, I just had a conversation on Facebook, because I've basically been calling people out in the name of love, in the name of humanity, And there was somebody that said a joke that was, a disrespectful joke towards women. They use the word hoe. And I don't know anybody that, has a positive connotation for that word. That it's just one of those words that you use it, it's automatically just putting out a negative connotation towards women and also towards men. And in that conversation, I gleaned that a lot of men say these jokes because it's just been the way that it is. And to them, it really is a joke. And they don't get the impact. So it goes both ways for sure. Because inherently, I think we do take offense to those jokes because there is something at the core of them. And that's why I wrote the chapter the way that I did, because all of those words hold a frequency, and it does hold humanity in that frequency when any of those words are used, because it does hold an energy. And the guy that I messaged about it, he got it because I was standing in love and compassion with him about it. And you can't argue with love and compassion.
100%.
And holding him to the, responsibility of speaking words that are loving and kind, and acknowledging him for wanting to be that, and recognizing that the words he used, despite being a joke, were not holding him to the standard that he said he was holding himself to.
Right. And that's lovely. That's love, really, because he got to experience love in a different way, meaning that not everything, is portrayed in the way that it was intended. And so, and I'm guilty of it myself. Like I say, I want to be love all the time, but I know that's not the case. I know that I can be not love. Let's just put it that way, in certain circumstances. But then when I come back to that and think, oh, what am I doing? That's not who I want to be. And making it right, and being who I say I'm being. I mean, we do have a human side element to us, unfortunately, and the human does come out this week a lot more than normal. But with that, though, this part of the show, now we come to the part of the show where usually Kimberly comes on, but she is with her aunt in Iowa. So this is the fundamental section. If you're new, you've never been to this show before, this is the fundamental section. So April, what would you say your 3 fundamentals are?
Can you give me more context for that question?
Sure.
That's too broad for my brain.
Okay. So we say fundamentals as capital FUN -DUH mental, like mental. So if you were to pass away tomorrow, this is how I say it. If you were to pass away tomorrow, what 3 things would you want people to remember you lived your life by?
Loving myself, having compassion for myself, and demanding peace in my body.
I love that. That is something that I challenged myself to strive for. In just being, not doing.
That's why I love taking out all that other stuff, all of the practices, all of the things. It's really hard to wonder how do I love myself more? I mean, people still might struggle with that, but it's a lot harder than am I doing it right?
Mm-hmm.
And demanding peace.
Right.
I'm all about simplification. And that's been my constant conversation is how do I cut through all this bullshit and, get to the heart of the matter. And that's That's really it. And, I'm very clear, though, that a lot of people resist loving themselves because we've been taught that loving ourselves is selfish, and that if you love others, if you love yourself, then you're neglecting others. And the reality is we're not here to love anybody. I'm not responsible for loving anybody in this world.
Just ourselves. And that has been one of my biggest challenges, because I grew up with a grandmother that says, remember, got to take care of your man. And so that was inbred into me in every relationship that I had. And I'm just like, well, what about me? He's got 2 arms, 2 legs, and a heartbeat. He can easily, and I'm not saying my husband doesn't. I'm not saying that at all. I married a really great guy, and he does look out for me. But I noticed that I do a lot more than I should. And that's slowly turning in our household. And it's because I've allowed it. So I take full responsibility for what I have done in this household and in my life. So it starts with me. So I love that you said that. Absolutely.
Now, if there was a fourth, that would be the fourth, is getting that the sooner we take responsibility for every single thing that we have created, that has been in our life, we created it all of it. That's why I wrote the chapter that I did, because every single word that comes out of our mouth creates what comes next.
Absolutely. I love that. This has been an amazing episode. Thank you so much, April. Where can people get a hold of you?
There's the link that's floating by. You can connect with me
/April.
I'm also on Facebook. It's a whole lot of love on the Facebook. That's pretty much what my Facebook is all about, is opening people's minds and hearts, and bringing back the love. So yes, that link is for if you want to set up a conversation about anything. That is where you would do it. And and I am creating, which is in the book, in the whatever it is, the bio, I guess, like all these formalities, a YouTube channel which is titled Illumination Station 1111.
Woohoo.
And this is being in co-creation right now as to what it's going to look like, because I want to co-create it with the world, and really see what everybody else really is needing and create from there. But it will be centered on the same things that my Facebook is. And I knew we were going to get the dog before the end. I want to put in acknowledgement and start a fire around that with people, and have it be just a world of acknowledgement for who people are and who people are for other people. And because that would be my fifth thing.
Love, acknowledgement, acceptance. I love it. It's all there. Love thyself first, and you give to others, and the overflow is basically the wrapping this conversation in a big giant hug. And it starts with loving ourselves, which starts with, for most of us, the body conversation. Loving ourselves is loving our bodies. So love that. Don't forget to go get your copy on Amazon today of Bringing New Words to Your Body Conversation. Today's episode was with April, one of the amazing authors in this book. So April, thank you for joining us. I will have all... what's the word I'm looking for? I will have all links in the show notes to the book and to Speaking with April. So with that, guys, again, April, thank you so much for coming on here. Any last words before we wrap this up?
Was right there was love yourself now and now and now and now and now and never stop. And if we could fight about loving ourselves and fight with people about loving themselves more, then maybe the fight would be worth something.
I love that. Mic drop. For those of you that are on the audio, you didn't see me doing like mic drop hands. And you sounded like Kimberly now. That's the Kimberly thing. If you're around Kimberly, you get these
I am her
euphemisms.
and she's me.
Oh my God. Yes, she's in the room. I love that, guys. And like April said, love yourself. With that, see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Thank
Bye
you for having me, Dorothy. And thank you for this platform and who you are for the world.
Absolutely, my friend. That's what my purpose is.